Most people believe family is automatic, that blood guarantees love, that parents are parents, no matter what. I used to believe that too, until I learned family isn't about who creates you, it's about who stays. Let me take you back to the very beginning of my life, to a moment I don't remember, but one that defined everything that came after. I was born to two people in their early 20s. They weren't poor, they weren't struggling with addiction, they weren't trapped by circumstances. They just didn't want to be parents. 2 days before I was born, they made a decision that would change my life forever. They told my dad's parents, my grandparents, that they weren't ready and asked them to raise me instead. Not temporarily, not until they figured things out, forever. And when the day came, they didn't even wait. After I was born, they left me at the hospital. They signed what they needed to sign. Then they walked away before my grandparents even arrived. No goodbye, no explanation, no note. They disappeared from everyone's lives. 16 years passed. And here's the part that surprises most people. No one chased after them. My grandparents didn't beg. They didn't hunt them down. They didn't tell me fairy tales about mom and dad coming back someday. Instead, they did something far more powerful. They showed up.
They took me home. They gave me my own room. They memorized my bedtime routine. They learned how I liked my eggs. They showed up to every school event, every doctor appointment, every bad dream. They never once made me feel unwanted. To the world, they were my grandparents. But in every way that mattered, they were my parents. Growing up, I knew the truth. They never hid it from me. But it wasn't a wound that bled every day. It was just a fact. Some kids grow up with two parents, some with one, some with none. I grew up with two people who chose me, when the people who made me didn't. And honestly, that was enough. Years went by. I built my own life. I became independent. I learned who I was. Then, out of nowhere, the past knocked on the door. A few months ago, my biological parents resurfaced. No warning, no build-up, just a sudden message through extended family. They had new lives now, new jobs, new kids, and apparently a desire to reconnect. My aunts and uncles were cautiously open to it. Some believed in second chances. Some believed people change. Some just wanted peace. No one pressured me. They told me the choice was mine. At first, I said no. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel curious either. I felt nothing. But eventually, I agreed to meet them. Not out of hope, not out of longing, just to see what it would feel like. The first meeting was awkward. They smiled too much, asked surface-level questions, acted like time had simply paused for 16 years. They talked about their new kids, kids they stayed for, kids they raised. I listened. I nodded. I felt like I was watching strangers talk about a life I was never invited into. I didn't cry afterward. I didn't feel closure, just confirmation. They weren't my parents. They were people I shared DNA with. That was it. My grandparents wanted no part of this reunion, and I didn't blame them. They never spoke badly about my biological parents, but they didn't owe them space in their lives either. I met my parents one more time, and that's when everything changed. They came over saying they wanted to talk about the future. Those words alone made my stomach tighten. At first, the conversation stayed polite, careful, too careful. Then, the subject shifted. They brought up my grandparents, their health, their age, and then their will. They asked if my grandparents had planned things fairly, They asked if it would be possible to add their other children, my half-siblings, to the inheritance, equal shares, like mine. Let me explain something important. My grandparents legally adopted me into their estate, not as a grandchild, not as an afterthought, as a child. Their will treats me the same as their other children, my aunts and uncles. My biological father, he is not included at all. And suddenly, after 16 years of absence, they wanted their new kids to benefit from the people they abandoned. That was the moment the mask slipped. They didn't come back because they missed me. They didn't come back because guilt finally caught up to them. They came back because they saw something they could gain. And I felt something then. Not rage, not heartbreak. Clarity. I told them no. I told them my grandparents' decisions were not theirs to negotiate. I told them it was inappropriate, disrespectful, and deeply selfish. They tried to argue. They said things like, "Family should share. Your siblings deserve a chance. We're just thinking long term." I looked at them and realized something terrifying. They had rehearsed this. They had planned this conversation. And I ended it. I told them to leave. I told them not to come back. And I kicked them out of my house. After they left, I sat there in silence. Not shaking, not crying, just steady. Later that night, I visited my grandparents. I didn't tell them everything. They didn't need the details. I just hugged them, longer than usual. Because here's the truth people don't like hearing. Being a parent is not an accident of biology. It's a series of choices made every single day. My parents made their choice 16 years ago. My grandparents made theirs. And when the past came knocking, I chose too. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stays when walking away would have been easier.